We begin this hour with some breaking news out of Russia, where prison officials there say the country's prominent opposition leader, Alexey Navalny, has died in prison. The outspoken Kremlin critic has been in a Russian jail since 2021. In August last year, he was found guilty on extremist charges and sentenced to an additional 19 years in prison. Navalny denied the charges. Moments ago, Vice President Kamala Harris gave her reaction to the news.
We've all just received reports that Alexey Navalny has died in Russia. This is, of course, terrible news, which we are working to confirm. My prayers are with his family, including his wife, Yulia, who is with us today. And if confirmed, this would be a further sign of Putin's brutality. Whatever story they tell, let us be clear, Russia is responsible. And we will have more to say on this later.
Our Chris Livesay reports on Navalny's knife.
He was one of Russia's fiercest dissidents who fell afoul of the Kremlin. Alexey Navalny rose to prominence in 2012 when he ran for mayor of Moscow, came in second, and denounced the election he said was rigged by his opponent, an appointee of Vladimir Putin. Navalny described the Russian president's party as one of crooks and thieves, a rallying cry for his millions of Twitter and YouTube followers, and a thorn in Putin's side. Once, during a live stream, state police used a blowtorch to break into his office. He was jailed in 2019 after calling for unauthorized protests, then suddenly became sick with what Russian doctors called contact dermatitis, but what Navalny and his personal doctor suspected was poisoning. 2 years earlier, he was assaulted with a green dye that left a serious chemical burn in his right eye. Speaking to CBS 60 Minutes that same year, he wondered aloud why he was still alive.
Maybe they missed the good timing for it when I was less famous.
And again, speaking to CBS News, he predicted the chances of him winding up dead were high.
50% I would be killed or I would not be killed.
Then, in the summer of 2020, the anti-corruption activist plunged into fits of agony aboard a flight forced to make an emergency landing in Siberia. Narrowly surviving, he was airlifted to Berlin, where doctors confirmed he had been poisoned with a Novichok nerve agent. After making a dramatic recovery, he told CBS 60 Minutes' Leslie Stahl that the Russian president himself was to blame.
You have said you think that Mr. Putin's responsible.
I don't think, I'm sure that he's responsible.
But Navalny made a bold return home to Russia, which denies any involvement in his illness. Upon arrival, he was arrested, not before kissing his wife Yulia goodbye. Alexey Navalny, the voice of Russia's opposition, now silenced. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Rome.
And for more on this, let's go now to Imtiaz Tyab in London. Imtiaz, thanks again for being with us today. What more do we know about how Alexey Navalny may have died?
Chanel, Vlad, good to be with you. Well, according to Russia's prison services, the 47-year-old died today after collapsing and losing consciousness at the penal colony north of the Arctic Circle, where he's serving a very long jail term. Now, to give you a sense of what this prison is like, we understand that the cell that he's been in is about 6 feet by 10 feet. So very, very small. He was in it for around 23 hours a day, was not given adequate food. But more, I suppose, to the point of the conditions there, he in a tweet, which is usually how he communicates with his vast number of supporters on social media, tweets which were usually he dictates to his legal team, the very few people who could see him, said that in the morning he would wake up to Vladimir Putin's voice, and at night he would hear Vladimir Putin's voice, basically saying that throughout the day he would be subjected to speeches by Vladimir Putin, as well as pro-Russian songs, which prison advocacy groups have described as a form of torture. Now, late last year, there was some confusion, or rather some fear over his safety, given nobody had any idea where he was for several weeks. He later did appear in some images that, again, were posted online, looking in relatively good spirits at this penal colony in the Arctic Circle. But now we're hearing from Russian prison authorities that he's now dead. Chanel.
Imtiaz, I want to ask about the timing as well. Russian President Vladimir Putin is running for re-election this month. Could this death in any way change the local political landscape? I mean, is there any other real opposition to Putin?
Yeah, well, in short, no. When Vladimir Putin said he'd run for president in this month's election, it was clear the longtime Russian leader was all but certain to clinch a fifth term in office. Putin, as you know, has dominated Russia's political system and the media for the past 2 decades, jailing many prominent opposition politicians, including Alexey Navalny. Now, Putin has won previous elections by a quote-unquote landslide, but independent election watchdogs say they were marred by widespread fraud. Now, under constitutional reforms he orchestrated back in 2020, Putin is also eligible to seek 2 more 6-year terms after this term expires next year, potentially allowing him to remain in power until 2036. If he remains in power until then, his tenure will surpass that of Joseph Stalin, who ruled the Soviet Union for 29 years. Chanel.
Imtiaz, thanks so much.